Hello everybody. Today we're going to brush up on our use of adjectives, adverbs, as well as means of showing degrees of comparison between them. So let's start with some examples as usual. I want you to try to find the adverbs and the adjectives in this first sentence. I've just realized I haven't told you yet what my family looks like. Have you got it yet? Correct. It's just. So just here is an adverb, but what is this adverb doing? Right, it's talking about time. I've just realized, just a moment ago realized that I haven't told you this. And it's working on the verb told. So in our second example, he is still quite fit because he goes jogging every morning. Here, still and quite are adverbs, but this time they're not working on a verb. Instead, they're working on the adjective fit, because we can use adverbs also to discuss adjectives. So, still, in this case, refers to how long or during what period of time an adjective is applicable, or it is true. He is still fit. He is, at this moment, very, very fit. And we also have this word quite. Quite, in this case, shows degree. You could ask me, how fit is he? And I would answer, very. Now, for a third example, my dad is very handsome, but I'm a bit biased. Here, very works almost exactly the same way as quite. It is showing the degree of something. How handsome is he? He is very, very handsome. And the same thing for a bit. Both of these are showing the degree to which the adjective is true. And the fourth example, I don't like mean, greedy people. Here, mean and greedy are describing people. They are adjectives. And they are telling me more information about these people that I don't like. Speaking in grammatical terms, adjectives describe nouns. They can describe things, and they tell me more about them. However, adverbs describe everything else. Here, an adverb can describe an adjective, a verb, or even other adverbs. And now we have some examples of adjectives and adverbs, and I want us to talk about who or what they are describing. So first, one of my favorite things, a pretty woman. Right, so pretty here describes the woman. It describes her physical beauty, what she looks like. Or another example, a dear child. Here, dear is telling me how valued the child is, how important the child is to me, to whomever. But it tells me about how much the child is valued and loved. Another example is thick or fat dogs. Right, here it's telling me about the appearance of the dog. Is he skinny? Or has he had a little bit too much to eat for a very long time? And a fourth example, an expensive car. Here, this adjective, expensive, is telling us about the price of the car. Is it cheap? Is it reasonably priced? Or is it, in fact, the kind of car that we all want? An expensive car. One more example. Crowded streets. Here, crowded is telling me about the number of people on the streets. Are they empty? Or are they crowded, just like the street outside of this building? And for some examples of adverbs, we have to do immediately, or to speak quickly. Here, in both of these examples, my adverbs are describing verbs. They're describing the way an action is being done. However, I can also say something like quite reserved, very busy, and also extremely talented, rather noisy. Here, all of these adverbs are describing adjectives. So, to summarize, adverbs answer the following questions: how, where, when, or to what extent. And adjectives tell us which and what kind of. However, I would like to bring our attention to the order of adjectives contained within a sentence, because there is a specific and a correct order to constructing phrases with adjectives. So let's start very simply. A bag. But maybe I want to describe, well, what I think about the bag. And then I can say, a nice bag. Or I want to tell you about the size. A nice, small bag. And maybe I also want to tell you about the age. A nice, small, new bag. And maybe I also want to include some information about the shape. A nice, small, new, rectangular bag. But maybe I want to tell you that it's black as well. So a nice, small, new, rectangular, black bag. But maybe it's Italian, and I think you should know. So it's now a nice, small, new, rectangular, black Italian bag. But like all the best Italian bags, it's also made from leather. So now, it becomes a nice, small, new, rectangular, black Italian leather bag. And maybe, finally, I want to tell you what I bought it for. So it's a nice, small, new, rectangular, black Italian leather evening bag. So please remember that the correct order of adjectives is as follows: opinion, size, age, shape, color, origin, material, purpose, and then finally, the noun. When we need to compare different qualities of people or things, though, we use the comparative degree. And the comparative degree is formed by using an adjective with the er ending and than, or by using the structure more than with an adjective. However, if we want to say that something is different to the highest degree over any other thing, then we use what is called the superlative degree in English. And the superlative is formed by the adjective with an est ending, or by saying the most with an adjective. Now, I hope that you remember when to use er and est endings, as well as when to use more and most. However, it will be very useful to systematize your knowledge at this point. With one-syllable adjectives, you simply add the er or the est endings. For example, high, higher, the highest. Or another example, young, younger, the youngest. And finally, cheap, cheaper, the cheapest. For one-syllable adjectives with short vowels followed by a single consonant, the structure changes a little bit. So look at the example, big. When we make big into bigger, we double the consonant, B-I-G-G-E-R. And the same for the superlative form, the biggest. We can also say hot, hotter, using the same rule, and the hottest. And finally, fit, fitter, and the fittest. For adjectives ending in y, we still use the er and the est endings. However, the y changes to the letter I. For example, busy, busier, the busiest, spelled B-U-S-I-E-S-T. Or another example, happy, happier, happiest. Or finally, pretty, prettier, the prettiest. For adjectives which are 2 or more syllables, we simply use more or most. So, for example, intelligent, more intelligent, the most intelligent. Or another example, beautiful, more beautiful, the most beautiful. However, be careful because there are some exceptions to these rules. For example, good. Good becomes better and the best. Also, bad. Bad becomes worse and the worst. Far will become further or farther and the furthest or the farthest. Little, if we're talking about size, becomes smaller and the smallest. However, if you're talking about the amount of something, small or little will become less and the least. Similarly, if we're talking about much or many, then both will transform into more and the most. And finally, old will transform into either older or elder, and the oldest or the eldest. The difference between elder and older is that elder refers to respect. It can be someone's rank, position, experience, or even age. For example, my elder brother. I have a brother who is older than me, but I also respect him. The word older only refers to age. My brother is older than me. This is a simple fact and nothing more. So, if we want to talk about adverbs, first we should admit that most adverbs in English end in ly, and you can very often make the adverb form of a word by simply adding ly to the adjective. For example, the adjective nice becomes the adverb nicely, beautiful, beautifully, slow, slowly, arrogant, arrogantly, quiet, quietly, complete, completely, self-conscious, a little bit longer, but still self-consciously, cheerful, cheerfully, hypocritical, hypocritically, angry, angrily, and please note the change in spelling here, natural and naturally. Don't forget that there are also some adjectives that end in ly, such as lonely. These adjectives cannot become adverbs as such. However, there is a way to do this. For example, we usually use the structure in an adjective way. And this functions the same way as an adverb. So, for example, in a friendly way, or in a silly way. We can also say in a silly manner. These both mean the same thing. Way and manner are synonyms. Some adverbs also have high degrees of comparison, and to form these, they have their own sets of rules. For any monosyllabic, or one-syllable adverbs, these will all follow the same rules as adjectives. Hard becomes harder and the hardest. Fast becomes faster and the fastest. Same for quick, quicker, and the quickest. And early, earlier, and the earliest. For adverbs ending in ly, we simply add more or the most. For example, beautifully, turns into more beautifully or the most beautifully. And finally, be careful with the exceptions here. Well becomes better and the best. Badly or poorly becomes worse and the worst. Little becomes less and the least. And finally, much becomes more and the most. The final point I'd like to bring your attention to now is the correct order of adverbs within a sentence. Generally, the correct position of an adverb is before the main verb. However, if we have auxiliary verbs, the adverb will come after the auxiliary verbs. If there is more than one, it becomes after the first auxiliary verb. And finally, if you have more than one adverb, they go in a specific order. The order is manner, place, and then time. Like in the example, he was quietly playing on his computer in his room until 6 o'clock in the evening. Manner, place, and time. So with that, we'll wrap up our discussion today about adjectives and adverbs. In addition to this lecture, please study the additional materials in the tables that have been provided. See you next lesson.